evening and welcome to PBS Fort Wayne. I'm Sandy Thomson, the host of Life Ahead here, but I have two guests here this evening that are the real stars of the show. Our topic's going to be about law and social work. So this evening I'd like you to meet again, if you haven't watched us before, Bryan Nugen. Bryan, thank you for coming back.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here.
Well, Bryan is basically an elder law attorney, and he's been coming on about once a month for the last year or two. I mean, you've been on many
probably
times.
2 or 3 years by now.
Has it been?
It has
three?
been. Yeah.
Wow. I have to measure that by how old his dog was, because I remember when you got
That's
Cricket.
right. Cricket.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And Brian Grubb, is that correct pronunciation?
Correct.
Okay. Brian is a social worker, and we're going to be talking about that aspect too of elder care, because the two sometimes sort of entwine.
They do.
Okay, well, let's start with some brief definitions. First of all, if you're not familiar what elder law is, Brian, take it away.
Thank you. So I always like to point out the difference between elder law and estate planning.
Yeah.
So when we think about estate planning is when you're planning for when you pass away, where do your assets go? Are you going through probate? Are you avoiding probate? And who's going to be in charge of all of that?
And that's when you get all your documents done, your power of attorney. And,
that's right. Power of attorney, will, trusts, those types of things.
Yeah.
Elder law is more of a robust field. So elder law would deal with all of those things that estate planning is dealing with, but may also work with protecting assets during your lifetime, so that if you were planning to get benefits at some point to provide payment for your care, it could be in-home care, could be care at something like a nursing home, assisted living facility, memory care unit, but also looking out for those elders to make sure that they're in an appropriate place, they have a good group around them, caring for them as they age. So that's why I asked BG to come with me today, Brian Grubb to come with me today and talk about social work and how social work ties in with seniors as they're aging.
Yeah. All right. And they're both Bryans, by the way. And this is a Y-A-N and this is an I-A-N.
That's right.
But apparently you're called BG just to distinguish between the two of you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so nice that you're here, Brian.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know. BG, Brian?
Yeah, whatever you want to
You'll
call
answer
me.
to whichever.
Yes.
Okay. This Brian has described or defined elder law. Could you explain what social work is, first of all, and then how it relates to elders?
Yeah. Social work, the field is very wide. You know, we do a lot of different things. There's medical social workers. There's social workers that provide therapy, that type of thing. I look at social work as being basically a problem solver. That's what we do kind of across the board. We're looking for resources for people, helping people connect with whatever they need so that we can solve their problems, help them kind of maneuver through systems, those kind of things. But what unites us is establishing relationships with people and solving problems, whatever they may be. They can be simple, they can be big.
Can you give me an example of what kind of problems the social worker would
Well, it
face?
could be, yeah, for sure, yeah. One kind of problem may be like, I need to find a place to go live.
Oh, okay.
So it could be like if I'm living at home and I need to go to an assisted living, that may be one example. Another problem may be I need some therapy at home. How can I get that taken care of? Another problem may be I've been looking for some home health care. Who do I go to? Is there available resources that maybe I don't have to pay as much for those resources? So all sorts of problems. So.
Okay, does one have to sign up to be a client for, say, a year or something to get services like that?
Well, with our firm, we provide, the firm provides me when you are part of one of the programs. I don't know if you want to share that, Brian, but social workers come in all, I mean, there's social workers. Just kind of depends on where you're at in your life with people.
Curiosity, do social workers still come to visit people in the hospital? Is that a thing or no?
It is, yes. So there are hospitals. So social work, as BG was saying, is a very broad category.
Yeah.
And so there are social workers in many different genres of care for folks that are young up to the end of their life. And the thing that ties them all together that BG was referring to is there's a problem, and is there a solution to that problem? And the social worker is putting you in touch with that solution. So inside a hospital, yes, hospitals typically have social workers. Hospice agencies have social workers. So it's very common for a social worker to be part of a team. What we're kind of focusing on today is that elder law component of it, and how are they working with folks as they're aging. But to answer your question, yes, most definitely any of your hospitals will have social workers, and those social workers may be putting, as BG was saying, the folks that are at the hospital in touch with resources. The problem is I'm going home and I'm needing to have assistance when I go home. I need to have therapy when I go home. I need to get care in the home. How are we arranging that care? How are we coordinating that care?
So we can get home and get that care.
And be successful when you go home. Is that a fair?
Oh, yeah.
I like that. And be successful when you get home.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I work with those social workers in the hospitals too. So, for example, this last week, I mean, you know, I get a call from a social worker, met with them at the hospital before that social worker even met with somebody that we're serving. And so I'm working with them. They're calling me like deferring to me. You know, so and so is in the hospital here. They want to know like if where they should go for rehab. What are they're going to defer to you for a place to go. So give them a couple options.
Yeah, I've heard that sometimes is the issue. Maybe somebody's had some surgery or something very serious treatment. And they can't go home. I mean, they're expected to have some medical care for a while, but it's like leave the hospital Thursday, whatever. So somebody has to help them find assisted living or something.
You make a good point in that oftentimes when people are discharged, it's happening very fast.
Yeah.
And so they may not have that support in place that they need when they're being discharged. So the social worker may step in at that point and help them arrange for all those levels of care. And maybe it's appropriate for them to go home. Maybe they're not quite ready to go home. Perhaps they're transitioning to rehabilitation. Perhaps they're transitioning to assisted living. BG was referencing that earlier. So where their home is, either temporary or permanent, may be impacted by the advice, the direction that the social worker is providing to, in your example, the person at the hospital being discharged.
Got it. Okay. And often on this show, Brian and Brian, we've recommended to people to start now, anytime over 50, start visiting different retirement centers and assisted living. So if all of a sudden you're surprised with, you've got to go find someplace to live for 8 months or something, you'll have something in mind of what your preference might be. Is that a good idea, or what do you see clients doing?
I think it's a great idea.
Sure is. Go ahead.
Yeah, and frankly, so when sometimes what a social worker will do is organize those tours for you.
Oh, okay.
And introduce you to those different facilities. But I think the point that you're making, Sandy, is excellent. 50 may be a little young, but the idea is that...
When you're 50, you don't think so.
I think that the idea, though, is that to familiarize yourself with different options that you have, so that you're not making a decision in a crisis moment, and you have that team around you to support you.
When you're maybe not medically feeling good to make a decision.
Yeah, it's tough when I think elder law attorneys or other social workers are working with folks, and maybe they have an illness or they've been dealing with a disease or a certain set of circumstances, and they're in a little bit of denial. That's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to have to leave my home. So we want to make sure that, in fact, they've done a little bit of homework, and maybe their family members have done the homework as well, so they know when that situation arises that they're comfortable with the choice of where they're going.
And I've heard, tell me if I'm right or wrong, there's a lot of information on the internet. I mean, you could go to indiana.gov, and I don't know, you can find ratings for all of the nursing homes? Is that right?
Well, through Medicare, actually. They have
Medicare.
They have a rating system. But I will say about that, too, is that that's not always up to date. Also, the other part about that is that they've changed. A lot of times when they get rated, they always find some things that they need to improve on. So those things, those ratings may not be accurate. What I like
Got
to do
it.
is tell people, talk to people, go there yourself, visit, but if you get some referral from another person that's been there and had good service,
But there's nothing like, good word of mouth.
yes, exactly.
With, friends or somebody you know.
Yep.
That means to me a lot more than something printed on
Yes.
the internet, I
Yeah.
guess.
And not only to schedule a time to see the facility, but you may drop in at different
I think
times
that's
as well.
a good idea.
Right.
And if they don't want you to, there's
Something's
wrong.
going on. But go enjoy a meal. I was, I've been at different facilities, and the food is a very important part as we're aging, and we want an environment that's comfortable for us. So being comfortable in the dining experience, that is important. So you want to know what their menu is. You want to know what they're serving to their residents, et cetera.
Yeah, and then that would be your first question to maybe
Yeah,
a
for some
person that
people.
lives there.
Yeah,
How's
yeah.
the food?
Yeah, or do you play euchre?
Oh, is that it?
Or-
Euchre?
That's a big one
Activities.
for one. Yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What activities
Really?
they have.
Yeah.
And, of course.
It's not bingo. That's not number
Well,
one
that's
anymore.
important too, but for some people, it's like that's a determining factor whether or not what's going on here.
Yeah. What activities are going
Yeah.
on at that facility?
Yeah.
I saw a video on Facebook, I guess, the other day that was in a nursing home or an assisted living, and they were playing. It was so cute. Most of the people were in wheelchairs, and they were playing volleyball.
Oh.
They actually had a net up in the room. It was a big room. They had a net up, and then they had, what do you call them? For pools, the styrofoam
Oh,
tube
Acoustic?
thing.
For pool, like playing pool? Acoustic?
No. Swimming
yeah,
thing.
it's
noodle.
Yeah, noodle.
Noodles,
Yeah, exactly.
noodles. Yeah, they were using noodles to
Yeah.
bat the ball
Yeah.
back and forth, and
Yeah.
they were just having the best time,
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely the best time. Okay, enough about that because none of us have to worry about that for a very long time. Okay, Brian, how do elder law attorneys work with social workers, or like if you have a client you think needs some help, do you contact a social worker to
Yes. So what we're looking
assist them?
Yep. So what we're looking for is to coordinate the care for that respective client.
Okay.
And so sometimes as elder law attorneys, we are doing certain things for them. So at the top of our conversation today, you talked about preparation of documents and having those documents in place. So we may be preparing those documents, but when the client is needing something above and beyond that, as an elder law attorney, we want to make sure that we have the right resources and we're able to point our clients in the right direction so that they can get the care that they need. So in those instances, we may coordinate with a social worker so the social worker is able to identify the problems of the client and then look to ways to resolve those issues, issues that those clients are facing. The social worker isn't necessarily personally resolving the issue. They're typically coordinating the care for the client.
Yeah.
So to BG's point earlier, he may coordinate a touring of a facility or having help in the home or arranging for food to be delivered to the home.
Oh,
Another
sure.
social worker could do that for the individual. So really what the elder law attorney is looking for is what are resources in the community that are out there that maybe we're not doing in-house that we can bring somebody in and have that person, that social worker, coordinate with our client to make sure that our client is being provided for appropriately and having all that care coordinated for them as they age or wherever they are. It could be on a short-term basis. I had a hip replacement and I need a little bit of care for a period of time. It could be a longer time. We may be looking at a placement at a facility for a longer period of time.
You know, it's just so wonderful that there are so many businesses that provide different services for home health care or nursing service at home or, you know, 20 years ago, did that even exist? I don't know.
Well, I can say that in my career, I've seen those different programs really blossom.
Yeah.
15 years ago, 18 years ago, you didn't see as many agencies as there are today. I didn't see the number of hospice agencies or personal service agencies or home health agencies as I see now. Is that your same experience,
No,
BG?
I would agree with that. There's our whole country basically is more service oriented.
Sure.
And I will say too, just to tag on there, is that a lot of times people don't know what they They've never been through these situations. So they really don't know. They're starting from
Right.
scratch. So what a social worker can bring is just knowledge and like, oh, okay, thinking ahead. Like, did you know that this was available? This might be really helpful in your situation. For example, like, oh, we're at a facility today and we're having some trouble with medications, or, what can you do for that? So
Yeah.
you might set in with them on a care plan meeting, that kind of thing. But again, no matter what the situation is, a lot of times people just don't know because they've never been there before.
They've never experienced it,
Yeah.
nor have their kids who might
Right,
be held
exactly.
responsible for finding these services for them.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know.
And I think when the attorney, the elder law attorney, is meeting with, to your point, with the children are wanting to make the right decisions.
Sure they are.
And you
Yeah.
referenced earlier about going on the internet and seeing something on the internet versus reputation versus experience that other folks have had.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. That social worker hopefully is bridging that gap between the children wanting to work appropriately with their parents and wanting their parents to have the most healthy experience in life as they age, and tapping into that resource of the social worker to know what places do have a good reputation,
Yeah.
what places has the social worker had a good experience with his or her clients.
Right, because BG, for example, would be speaking from the authority of previous clients
Yeah.
that like or not like something.
Yeah, yeah, and I, again, my goal would be to just give people opportunities to talk to people, give them those options, and let them make the decision. No, we don't make decisions for people. We just say, here are
the
some
possibilities.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
more. So.
Can you call in additional services if they look to be needed, medical assistance or?
Oh, yeah, always.
You mentioned therapists even?
Yeah. So somebody's at home, homebound in their chair. They're even in maybe a Hoyer lift, and so.
What?
A Hoyer lift.
What's
A Hoyer
that?
lift, they use them frequently in nursing facilities and hospitals because somebody can't get up. So it's a lift
okay.
to get them up out of the bed or out of a chair into bed or
Is Hoyer the name of the inventor? Or something?
Well, yeah, I think so.
I think in the industry it's
Yeah.
called a Hoyer lift. I don't know.
But for this example, maybe they've been just bed or chair bound and they need some physical therapy because their
Yeah.
goal is to walk again.
Yeah.
So, hey, social worker, can you help us find a physical therapist that will come to our home?
Oh, okay, because there might be
Yeah.
certain limitations.
And maybe the other thing might be, can this be paid for by insurance versus out of pocket? So, okay.
Oh,
well,
you can work with that too. I mean,
yeah.
see what their insurance or what Medicare provides.
Yeah, there's
or-
pretty much nothing, or there's nothing that we, as social workers can't do.
and haven't
Again,
faced at some point with
Yeah.
different clients.
yeah. So we're always just searching for solutions for people. So.
Okay. All right. What are some of the most common or even uncommon situations have you dealt with as an attorney where you've had to seek some social worker help?
Unique
Is
situations.
that, am I putting you on the spot?
No,
with
you're not
that?
putting me on the spot. I think that I've used social workers to organize trips for clients.
Trips?
Well, no, I shouldn't say trip.
Oh.
To see family, right? We need
Oh,
to see
okay.
family. Family isn't local, so we've needed to have that transportation coordinated from this local region to another region. Right?
Interesting.
We've organized, used social workers to organize trips when an individual is in a different state and they're no longer successfully living there and they were being brought back to Indiana. So we've relied on social workers to organize that type of medical transportation. We've utilized social workers for securing food in someone's home. We've utilized social workers to coordinate transportation for folks. So really, I've never heard it said this way, but when you were saying earlier about spotting a problem and providing a solution, that's really a great description of what social workers do,
Okay, write that
regardless of
down.
where they are. If they're with a hospice agency, if they're with a home health agency, if they're with a hospital, if they're independent, I think that that's a great definition of how social workers are used. In this, for tonight's discussion, really, when we're dealing with seniors and the elderly, we're focusing on what it is that folks, as they age, how they can use that social worker to coordinate all kinds of care for them.
Okay. I mean, that's so wonderful. Again, that's an opportunity. And I wouldn't have thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of asking my attorney, you know, hey, do you know somebody, or can you get me hooked up with somebody that can help me find an assisted living or find some therapy or home health care?
So it isn't necessarily the attorney that's doing it.
I
It's that
understand,
the attorney
but you
has
can-
resources in the community
Yeah.
to rely on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the attorney wouldn't be expected to do that sort of thing. Thanks to you, BG, you know, for
Well,
doing
and
that.
I just had a little clarification too. Maybe, you know, when we do an assessment, we kind of refer to it as a needs assessment, not
Okay.
a problem assessment too. You know,
Oh,
so,
that's positive. That's
yeah,
cool.
it's really more that. I mean, when I say problems, we're looking for solutions, and that's what you think
Sure.
about problems. But really, if somebody, it's whatever they need, you know. And again,
Do
a
you
lot of times-
work with, does a social worker work with, in addition to an attorney, do you work with the client's doctors or?
Everybody, whatever the need is. So sometimes I'm coordinating with doctors and talking to the staff at the office. But whatever it is, yeah. I mean, if it's with a physician, yes. If it's with a therapist, yes. If it's with a caseworker, say we're trying to get them some benefits, yes.
Oh, okay.
Insurance.
See, I wouldn't have known that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have known insurance would be
Oh,
something that
yeah.
you could work with.
Yeah, even the courts. I mean, had somebody
Really?
recently that had an issue with a car that was stranded in their driveway. That long story, but you know, just work with the courts, whatever. Adult Protective Services. We pretty much, as social workers, there's no limits to what we do.
A car stranded in their driveway.
I know it sounds crazy.
Well, I mean, no, because I mean, I know there are specific,
Yeah.
even city and county regulations. I think, like on a street or something, isn't it like you can only have a parked car for 24 hours and you have to move it?
Well,
is that right? I think.
Supposedly.
Well, I think if the car isn't titled properly and is parked on the street, that's an issue. I don't
Yeah.
know that if a car was there for longer than 24 hours, that would be
Yeah.
a concern. But,
Yeah.
but I think BG's point is,
Yeah.
a social worker may work with a myriad of
Yeah.
issues. So if
Yeah.
there's a need,
Yeah.
the social worker is providing a solution.
Well, okay, then here's a question. If you're doing some interviewing and you're looking for a social worker, what are qualities or characteristics do you look for? Brian, you can brag about, you know, your things now. You can give me a little resume.
I think personally the most important thing is being able to talk with and establish a relationship with an individual.
Yeah.
So you will get so far with people when you know that they trust you, and you develop that trust. It's just not given by everybody. Some people are pretty trusting right off the bat, and other people have to earn it. And for example, there have been situations where, in my role as a social worker, some people said, "What do we need that guy for?" You know, and then when it's all said and done, it's like, "Wow,
Yeah.
can't believe what that person
What they
did
were
for
able
us."
to do that you just
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, you didn't know was even available
Yeah, or that they
or how to find it.
or that they even needed it. So,
Oh, okay. Or if they even needed it.
go ahead.
I think, BG, you make an excellent point, which is there are any number of social workers that could provide excellent care, just like there are any number of elder law attorneys that could provide excellent care. It's you're looking for that relationship that you have a connection with them. And I think that's what you were trying to
Yeah.
say, is that
Okay.
you want to make sure you can connect with the
Yep.
client, the client's connecting with you. And even for folks as they're speaking to different elder law attorneys, they're wanting to have not only skill, of course they want skill, but do they have a relationship with them? They're comfortable explaining what's going on and having their needs satisfied. I think that's a very fair point. There are lots of talented social workers. There are lots of talented elder law attorneys. Do you have that connection with them? Do they have the skill set to match your need? Yep.
And maybe even the personalities.
Yep.
Well, you know, this has been a very interesting show. I have learned a lot of things I did not know before. So, BG,
Yeah.
thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Nice
Good
to-
to hear more about what a social worker does. especially as it's connected to the elderly and how it's connected to law. And thank you, Bryan Nugen.
My pleasure.
Very much.
Thank you, Sandy.
Okay, well, for the rest of you, again, we'll be on the set here every Wednesday night at 7:30 with new topics and new guests. And we are on YouTube now, too, so if you'd like to see this episode again or any of our episodes, you can check them out on YouTube. Meanwhile, have a great night.
The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne was made possible in part by
Nugen Law, focusing on estate planning and elder care law, emphasizing independence and quality of life. Serving Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. More information at nugenlaw.com.